They likely took different routes. You mean Julian went out alone, without Mr. White accompanying him? Mrs. Gable nodded. But Mr. Julian took about 10 shadow guards with him. What if someone was really plotting against him? I unconsciously raised my voice, my tone cold and heavy. A mere 10 guards is not enough. I couldn't be blamed for being suspicious. Too much had happened in the past 2 days. Mrs. Gable said, I tried to stop him, but I couldn't. He said that Mr. White was going to the truly dangerous place, and he was just going to the Apex Tower to pick up a file. She was, after all, just a servant and had no authority to question her master's movements. And she hadn't intended to tell me any of this. After Mrs. Gable left, I fell into deep thought. It was too late to notify my parents now. Besides, I had already sent them on a wild goose chase once, wasting their time. What if this was another false alarm? It would be better for me to go and drag the disobedient Julian back myself. Just as I was thinking this, my phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, I answered without hesitation. Chief, it's bad. Julian has been captured. My face turned to ice. Mobilize all our personnel in New York immediately, and send me his precise location. I turned back to my room, grabbed a couple of weapons, and strode out, running right into Mrs. Gable, who hadn't gone far. Seeing the terrifying aura around me, Mrs. Gable and the other nearby staff trembled involuntarily. Acting on instinct, Mrs. Gable stepped forward to block my path. Young master, what are you? Mr. Julian has already left. You can't go out now too. If something happened, she could never bear the responsibility. I said coldly, move. I'll explain to my parents myself later. But Mrs. Gable, belatedly realizing the gravity of the situation, pleaded, young master, please stay. I narrowed my eyes. You didn't stop him, but you're stopping me? Is he your only master? Faced with my sudden, intimidating presence, Mrs. Gable's heart pounded, and the others didn't dare to breathe. It felt as if one more word from them and I would strike them down. I continued, I said, if anything happens, I'll take the blame. While they were still stunned, I had already walked a good distance and vanished from their sight. A minute later, I had commandeered a limited edition sports car from the garage and disappeared before their eyes in an instant. By the time they reacted, all that was left was a trail of exhaust fumes. Mrs. Gable pushed past the regular staff and shouted into the air, quick, follow and protect the young master. A few seconds later, several figures emerged from the shadows. One of them said hesitantly, most of our men were taken by Mr. White. The rest of us have to guard the estate. We can't leave. Without a direct order from their master, they dared not abandon their posts. Mrs. Gable was frantic. The master and madam's phones were all going unanswered, and she couldn't even reach her husband, Mr. White. She could only pray that nothing terrible would happen today. In the study of Silas's private residence, it was still the two of them, but now, their demeanor was much more relaxed, with a hint of strategic confidence and the smug satisfaction of a plan coming to fruition. In front of them was a massive screen, displaying a live feed. A boy, covered in wounds, lay in a pool of blood, his hair matted with dirt and gore. Even in such a state, he didn't make a sound. If the Astors were here, they would have recognized him instantly as Julian, the son they had doted on for over a decade. But his eyes showed no fear or submission. A mocking smile even played on his lips. You've had me here for 20 minutes. Is this all you've got? The people who had captured him were from the Azure Dragons, New York's largest gang. They had always avoided the Astors, but this time they had gone all out, mobilizing their entire force just to capture him. A little thought made it obvious. The Azure Dragons must be in league with Mr. Coleman or Silas. Then he shifted his gaze to a distant camera, his tone fierce. I know you're the ones behind this, you cowards hiding in the shadows. Why do you only dare to watch from a screen? You'd better kill me right now, because if you give me even a moment to breathe, I will repay today's humiliation 100 times over. Julian's voice echoed through the empty underground parking garage, hoarse and tinged with the smell of blood, yet still filled with untamable pride. Even imprisoned and covered in wounds, he was still the same Julian the Astors had meticulously raised, the one who had never bowed to anyone. In the control room, Silas and Mr. Coleman were surely enjoying the show they had directed, savoring the thrill of caging a tiger. And I was in the driver's seat of a speeding Bugatti Divo, the calm voice of genius reporting in my earpiece. Chief, target location locked, Apex Tower, abandoned underground parking, level B3. The Azure Dragons have deployed about 50 core members, with snipers positioned on the perimeter. It seems they anticipated your arrival. This is a trap for both you and your brother. Understood. My voice was steady, my hands on the steering wheel showing no tremor. The car cut through the night like a black bolt of lightning, the roar of its engine, the only battle hymn in my heart. The image of Julian taking a bullet for me replayed endlessly in my mind. That bullet, meant for me, the bloom of red on his shoulder, was like a searing brand, burning away the last vestiges of my disguise as a docile younger brother. Family. The word had once been a distant, foreign concept to me. But with the Astors, I had felt a clumsy yet sincere affection. Their caution, their protection, and Julian's contradictory, reluctant guardianship were all slowly melting the wall of ice I had built around myself over 20 years of solitude. So, when my family was in danger, I could no longer stand by and do nothing. A screech of tires shattered the silence of the parking garage. To the astonishment of the Azure Dragons, my car executed a perfect drift, coming to a stop just outside their encirclement. The butterfly doors swung upward, and I stepped out of the car. I surveyed my surroundings, my gaze sweeping over the armed, menacing gang members before finally settling on Julian, who was chained to a concrete pillar. He looked terrible, his white shirt stained with blood, a trickle of it at the corner of his mouth. But his eyes, upon seeing me, first showed shock, then ignited with a complex, unreadable light. The leader of the Azure Dragons, a bald man with a fleshy, scarred face, sneered as he approached me. The Heir? You really dared to come alone. You've got guts. Today, you two brothers can be reunited here, and you'll have company on your way to hell. I ignored his taunts, my eyes fixed on Julian as I asked calmly, "Can you still walk?" Julian was stunned. He probably hadn't expected me to be so calm in the face of such a scene, as if I were asking him for a stroll in the park. He managed a weak but still proud smile. "Not dead yet. Good." The moment the word left my lips, I moved. My body left an afterimage as I vanished from my spot. The next second, a symphony of agonizing screams filled the air. To the terrified onlookers, I was like a god of death descended from hell, weaving through their ranks. My movements were clean, precise, and efficient. My elbows, knees, knuckles, every part of my body became a lethal weapon. I didn't kill them. My organization, Spectre, has an ironclad rule. We are maintainers of order, not reapers of life. Each of my strikes landed precisely on a vulnerable joint or nerve cluster, instantly incapacitating them without causing fatal injury. In less than 3 minutes, everyone in the parking garage, except for the bald leader, was on the ground, writhing in pain. The leader was completely terrified. He tremblingly raised his gun to aim at me, only to find that his wrist was already caught in my unyielding grip. I didn't even look at him, my gaze still fixed on Julian as I applied a little pressure. A sharp crack of breaking bone was followed by a pig-like squeal, and the gun clattered to the floor. Who are you?" he stammered, drenched in a cold sweat, staring at me as if I were a monster. I couldn't be bothered to answer him. I kicked him aside, picked up the key to the chains that had fallen from his pocket, and walked over to Julian to unlock his restraints. The chains fell to the ground with a clatter. Julian looked at me in shock, his eyes scanning the bodies strewn across the floor. Took him a long moment to find his voice. You were acting this whole time?" he asked, his throat dry. I helped him up, letting him lean on me for support. Then I looked up at the security camera pointed directly at us, a cold smile playing on my lips. How could a family of sharks produce a goldfish? I repeated the thought I'd had when we first met, then turned to Julian and said, "I was no accident in the Astor family." In the control room, the teacups in Silas's and Mr. Coleman's hands must have shattered on the floor. I helped Julian into the car. His body was hot, and he was weak from blood loss, but his mind was unusually alert. His eyes were fixed on me, as if trying to see right through me. So, growing up in the slums was a lie? All that unease and restraint, you were faking it. The training facility was next to the slums, so it wasn't a complete lie, I replied calmly as I started the car. As for the unease and restraint, it's hard not to act that way when you're surrounded by a family that wants to put you on a pedestal. The car pulled smoothly out of the parking garage. I dialed Mr. White's number. "Mr. White, Apex Tower, Level B3. There are 50 packages for you. Please take care of them and deliver them to the appropriate recipients. Also, lock down any news about Julian's injuries." On the other end of the line, Mr. White was silent for a moment, then replied in a tone of unprecedented respect, "Yes, young master." Julian listened to my instructions, his expression growing more complex. He leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes, as if trying to process the overwhelming amount of information. After a long while, he said softly, "Thank you. You took a bullet for me. I saved your life. We're even," I said calmly, my eyes on the road. But he suddenly laughed, a weak but relieved sound. Even Ethan, from the moment you returned to the Astor family, we were never going to be even in this lifetime. I didn't argue, because he was right. We didn't go home. Instead, we went directly to a private hospital owned by the Astors,